Word nerds! Happy whatever day it is today, probably Thursday since it's most likely going up on my day. We are here pre-recording a sort of live, not so live group chat. We're going to be talking about The Haunting of Hill House. This is the TV show, obviously, but I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the book as well. There will be so many spoilers for all the things. It is the second to last day of 2020 as we are recording this, and earlier this year we watched the show together, just as like a nice fun thing to do, and we have a lot of feelings about it, so we're going to talk about it today. If you are watching this, let us know in the comments how you feel about this show. I'm sure we will be happy to fangirl in the comments with you as well. So how does everyone feel? We're like a month out since we watched the finale.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to watching it again.
Mm-hmm. This will be my
definitely
first
something I'll
yeah. I've rewatched it twice already.
Yeah, this is my first time. I will definitely rewatch it.
Yeah, for me, it's like as much as this was like a fun thing we did together, I wasn't really prepared to do it by myself. So watching it, I watched it with everybody the first time, which definitely made it more enjoyable and easier for me to get through. So, but now that I feel like I know the story and I can just like,
you're comfortable.
I don't know if I'm gonna like turn the lights off and wear headphones to listen to it next time.
Maybe the third time. That made it so much scarier, honestly.
It really did.
Headphones. Yeah.
I didn't expect there to be quite so many like stereo effects going on.
Yeah, it was way scarier that way.
Yeah, you could just hear like movement going from ear to ear.
Yeah, I'm definitely not ready for that.
Well, you know how like if you shut off the music in a scary movie, it's like 50% less scary, maybe more. And so having the music like piped directly into your ears, I was like, oh my God. Like
and it just made you extra aware of the moments that they decided to ramp up the music versus scaling back.
Exactly.
Because if it is a show or a movie that uses a lot of music, then the silence becomes like equally as dread-inducing because you're like, what are you doing? Something is going to be loud.
There's that thing that's like halfway between silence and music where it's like it is a noise, but it's like the ramping up noise. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yes, yeah. Where something you're like, oh, this is something is about to happen, right? Like,
yeah,
my body's tensing.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things I noticed the most the first time I watched this show, and I've always been in awe of it every time I've rewatched it, is just how well they ramp up the dread. Like it really sits in the dread and makes you wonder, like, is there going to be a jump scare or is something bad going to happen? And it sits in it a few seconds past what is comfortable and familiar.
Yeah. One of the things I liked the most about Hill House is that it was like, I watch a lot of horror. A lot. And I watch a lot of B horror movies and a lot of good horror movies. And like Hill House was just so horrifying and also clever. Like the plot twist with the bent neck lady. I assume we are going all spoilers all the time. Okay, yeah. Like the plot twist with the bent neck lady was just like, I remember the first time I watched it, I screamed. I was like, this is the most clever thing I've ever seen in a horror or like movie or TV show. Like the writing was so good.
Yeah, and they did a really good job in that episode of like, I don't know, I wasn't wildly surprised that the bent neck lady was Nell, but as they revealed it, I just got more and more horrified.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, they're going to go there. Oh, they're like really going.
It
Oh,
was effective.
Yeah, like, I feel like there were always notes of it. Like for some reason, I thought maybe the mom or something, even though it didn't make any sense time-wise that way either. But it was like there was something. But then actually like seeing it come to fruition and like having Nell realize it is, I think, what made it horrifying.
Yeah.
Realizing that in effect she sort of like, I don't know if you would say she killed her husband, but like that was a factor, you know, like, and she's been terrorizing herself all her life. Like, oh crap.
The monster was you all along.
Yeah. like the monster was inside you.
And
The
having
monster was
to
along the way.
and having to relive at the end, like we've seen. It's episode 4, right? That's
Maybe
or 5.
5.
5. That's the bent neck lady, and so we've seen the bent neck lady like hurting Nell emotionally or whatever up to this point, and then having to watch her do that thing knowing
Well,
that she's
and
like hurting past herself.
the dialogue too, which was so simple, what you heard at first, which was just like no, right?
Yeah.
Like you heard that initially with the bent neck lady and went, well, that's creepy. And then in the scene where it's actually happening, you're like, oh,
you get to actually see her face now.
that is why she's going, saying that as she's realizing
she's traumatizing herself.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And in every episode, because we see that sequence 3 times, the one with Nell hanging over or like standing in front of sleeping Nell and stuff, because we see it in the first episode, and then we see it at the beginning of the 5th episode, and then we see it again at the end of the 5th episode, and they increase the audio of the nose every time.
Oh my God. See, that's a subtle, amazing thing to pick up on. Cause I'm sure I picked up on the effect of it. Like I felt the effect of it, but I didn't like put a pin in it and be like, oh, this is what they did.
I've watched it too many times.
That's very cool. So it's like closer and closer to the reality, essentially.
Yeah, it becomes clearer to the viewer.
Yeah. I just like the way they filmed it, the way they wrote it, and the way it's acted is just the trifecta of perfection. Like they did such a good job.
Those kid actors are so cute. They're just acting their little hearts out.
I feel like little baby Luke is just like so upsetting because you're like, he's so cute, but his like adult life is gonna be so hard.
Yeah. That's rough. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many good spooky scenes in the mansion where like the part where Nell just like ceases to exist for a while, apparently. Like stuff like that is like psychological horror. It's like another level of scariness, So you can imagine that. You're like, I was shouting for you and none of you saw me. Like
So do you guys have a scary moment that stands out of like this was the scariest part of the whole show for you?
I think
when we're talking about sound, I was thinking about the like knocking at the funeral home. It's not the scariest for me, but that one was maybe the most memorable.
Oh, and it was unsettling with headphones in. It was extremely unsettling.
Oh, and the is it when like the dad's in the basement or something and there's like the face?
Yeah.
The
most obvious hidden ghost.
I hate it so much.
I don't know if I saw that. I didn't see any of the hidden ghosts until like rewatched 3 because I was like so intently focused on the characters.
I was purposely not watching it as the first one.
Because it's the most obvious one. It was the first one I noticed, and I was
Where
like,
was it?
I hate it.
So Hugh is in the basement area, and it's full of black mold.
Right.
And there's the scratching in the walls, and he goes to like lean in and look through the hole in the wall to see if he can see the rats in there.
Right.
And as he's leaning in, like right here, there is a very pale, very blonde ghost staring directly into the camera.
And like he doesn't notice it.
He doesn't
notice it either. Yeah. See, because I wonder if I was focused on the hole he's looking into, expecting something to pop out.
I don't know. The angle it's at of like
it's not hidden. It's a hidden ghost they meant for you to see.
Jesus, apparently I didn't pay attention.
That sort of thing like really creeps me out because I hate the idea of like there's something and you don't see it. Like there could be something right over your shoulder. Oh,
like I'm like
the very first episode when they walk away from the red door and there's like the feet under it. Like I hate that sort of thing.
So scary. It's so good.
There was a hidden ghost that I noticed this time that I hadn't noticed before. That seems like really obvious. Like I don't know how I hadn't noticed it before, but it's in the episode, I think it's 9, where we get all of Liv's backstory. And it's right in the intro sequence where he's talking to her and she has both of the kids in her arms and she's like saying something to him. And as we get that slow zoom in, she doesn't realize that he's picked up one of the kids. So it like zooms out and she only has one kid in her arms and she's like really freaked out by it. But then she gets up and follows Hugh out of the room. And there's this big entryway right there. And there is a very tall ghost just standing in that entryway watching them leave.
I think I saw that one. See, okay, no, that is, I was going to say the bent neck lady was the scariest one to me. Not true. The tall, creepy, like formally dressed ghost, the bowler hat guy, hands down the creepiest ghost. Because the way he like floats with his freaking walking stick, like, yeah. I don't like anything like Slender Man-y. For some reason, anything really tall and thin.
I don't know if you guys watched it.
It's also why she hates my husband.
My husband is also tall and thin.
Like, you know,
So much I married him.
The gentleman in an episode of Buffy. It's like the only episode they were ever nominated for an Emmy for. Of like they had these like silent, very tall, floating over the ground bad guys, and that's who that reminded me of.
That is very. Are they? Oh, now I'm thinking of Doctor Who. I think that's not the ones where they see them and then forget them immediately, right? That's a
no, but they do kind of look like the gentleman, not like the bowler hat guy, but I can see why you would think.
Because I must like this is something imprinted in my brain that I'm like these are the scariest ones. Because I remember clearly like Buffy and the like forgotten people and the walking stick ghosts are all the creepiest to me.
Yeah. And the walking stick ghost in the last episode when he like actually goes, I forgot everybody's name now, face to face with oldest brother
Ben.
Yeah,
right? Ben, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And
but he's always facing like away from him, which for some reason is
in the present day
horrifying.
I think one of the really horrifying things about that ghost too is that up until that scene where he goes into Luke's room and takes the hat, most of the ghosts have just been standing there watching. And they haven't actually been doing anything. And so this is the first time a ghost pursues one of the children.
And the scene I'm thinking of is the one with Steven, of like they've gone into the house to find Luke. And then this is just like
gets in his face.
This is Steven realizing it's all real. And like his dad's talking through not looking at him and like all of that. Like, oh no. And like when we were all watching it together, we were very much talking about like at what point do you have to acknowledge that these ghosts are real? Kind of thing.
Like how long do you deny it? I think Kelly, you were saying that too with the funeral home scene. Like, okay, Shirley, come on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this now.
The funeral home scene is one of my hands down favorites out of the whole show.
That whole episode is my favorite episode, even though a ton happens in it.
I think it's because like that's the episode they really zone in on like the sibling drama and the family secrets and the stuff they went through, and you're seeing the children confront their father for what they perceive to be like a terrible mishandling of their mother's mental illness on some of the children's part, and the other ones, believe in ghosts. But
I think that's the first time in present day that we get them all like in one room together.
And knowing their backstories and seeing them come together and clash is that's I'm in it for the ghosts, but ended up being my favorite scene, was them interacting with each other and clashing.
Yeah, and they definitely they intentionally shot that episode that way. Like we've talked about this before, but when they pitched the show, they pitched this episode, the one in the funeral home. It was shot in 5 takes, the whole hour.
Wow.
So they were doing 15-minute shots at a time, just nonstop, continuous. The camera is pulling a circle, and then the adults are running out and the kids are running in. So Hugh sees them as children, and then the adults run back in and keep arguing with each other. It's incredible. That whole set was built so that the funeral home would have a hallway that connects to Hill House, so that Hugh could film that scene where he walks directly into Hill House and into the memory.
That's intense. Oh my God.
It is so cool. I'm going to put a link in the description to a whole little article / video about it, because Netflix released behind the scenes of that episode. It is so cool.
Oh, I might watch that. It's so funny because I have zero interest in the intricacies of filmmaking. If they're like, oh, we used this camera and we shot it with this lens and we went, and I'm just like, I'm snoring. But
if they went in a really big circle, I'm in.
if it pertains to story, like if they're like, we connected this with this on this set so he could walk directly into the house, which symbolizes blah blah blah, like that I am interested in, like using a camera to tell the story. And how
they like, because the past version of that episode is during the rainstorm when they lose Nellie. They can't see her, and Liv is like seemingly transporting all over the house while Hugh is trying to follow her, and they built like all of these halls in the backstage area so that she could like sprint from one end of the house to the other, basically. And so they could have like body doubles coming out and then disappearing. And they built an elevator so that they could film a shot of like them going down the stairs just perfectly seamlessly and stuff. And it's so cool. Wow. And like they thought it all out so it would be this episode that would seemingly be a really quiet episode otherwise, that is like just character development.
It's interesting that they had to do so much intense work to get the quietest episode, but it was I'm just gonna say it ended up being my favorite, like the way it was shot. And then
and they took a lot of care to make sure like they wanted it to be during a rainstorm, but they didn't want it to be added in special effects later. So almost all of the rainstorm effects, including like lightning and thunder and water pouring in through fireplaces, like that was all real.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So they had to queue up lighting effects and all like the glamour shot. I could talk about this forever. I think it's so cool. All of the work that they did to make a character themed episode.
Wow.
The most beautiful episode.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's very cool. Because it was unexpectedly my favorite episode because I'm here for the spooky shit, like I said. Like, but yeah, I don't know. I like all their backstories, and normally when people try to feed me backstories in a story, I'll just be like, just get to the present, right? Like I don't want flashbacks, but they managed to do it in a way that I think really holds your attention.
Oh, 100%. Because I feel like the flashbacks were like its own storyline. Like I didn't feel like a flashback. I felt like I was watching these two separate things that kind of come together.
Yeah. I think normally even with flashbacks that are a story, I have no patience for them. I don't know why. I think it's because if the main story is interesting to me, I'm like, I just want this. I don't care. But I think they established the backstory in a way that was like interesting enough to keep you.
I think part of it too is that that you need to know what happened that night. You need to get the full story to understand why everyone is behaving the way that they are right now. And you know that their climaxes are going to tie into one another.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, the backstory was what I was most interested in. Like, I mean, the present day stuff and the conflicts between them was really interesting. But the things you were like wanting to know more about was the backstory. Like you wanted to know what happened. And
so like the big event that changed everything and resulted in them being so messed up was in the past. So that's a good point. That's why probably it was, holding your attention.
And for me, like I know we all feel characters are a big part of what made this so special, but for me, the pacing is what I was really intrigued by. Of like when we got the bent neck lady reveal, which was halfway through, instead of like, oh, this isn't even the end reveal, and then like the red room and Luke's imaginary friend kind of thing that you're not sure what's happening there, and wondering what happened to the mom, and like there was even a few things left out that I would have liked more on. But I felt like it happened in a really good way that it didn't frustrate me that I didn't get the specifics of exactly what happened after it all happened. Is kind of, I wanted those intro.
Let me see them in therapy.
But even just like the levels of talking about like which characters really believe in the ghost versus which ones didn't see anything, and then how they deal with that in the like immediate aftermath of whatever they think happened with their dad. And so that was all really interesting, but the things they did give us,
tell them.
Yeah. So like the pacing that we actually got the reveals, I thought was really cool. And it only worked because we had those different timelines.
For sure. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit like right after we watched the finale, but just, well, what what does Steve do now?
Yeah.
This house is still there. He can't keep his family watching it forever.
Burn it down.
But then
I
you have
actually,
this like nice ghost family, and your family
Your
is left
sister
behind at the
lives
end.
there now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
don't burn it down.
I did think it was interesting the parallels between the book and the TV show, because overall the TV show basically just it took characters, it took setting, and it took lines from the book, and the structure of it was completely different. The story was completely different. Really, it just took like character names, not even character roles. But I did think, because Hill House the book does not end happily for Nell, and Hill House the TV show also does not end happily for Nell. And at first glance, you don't necessarily think about it that way. It's like, oh, well, she's in the house, her parents are there. But then it's like, oh, she's in the house and her parents are there, and like she doesn't get what happens to the other siblings whenever they die. Like, she's just gonna be there.
Yeah, I thought it was because I read the book after watching the show, which I actually, like normally you're like, oh, read the book first, but I like recommend reading it after, because it is really cool to see like just like the little tiny elements that they like pulled out and reused. Like there's like when the mom talks about like when she was a kid and she like drove by that house with the rose garden and she like imagined her life there, and like that's a thought that Nell has when she's like driving to the house like at the beginning of the book, and you're like, oh, that's cool. They just like pulled this like little thing and reused it somewhere.
Yeah, the Cup of Stars is one as well. In the book, Nell sees another girl, and she has another little girl with the Cup of Stars, and she has the thought that Mrs. Dudley tells Kid Nell in the TV show of like, hold on to that cup, insist on it, don't let them take your, basically like your childlike wonder from you. And they took that and gave it to child Nell in the TV show. Yeah, they took so many just very small details like that.
And I just lost some thought about the Dudleys of like, because what they do of like going to visit their kid. Is there anything stopping from like the rest of the family from just going to see Nell? No. That's where it's all left very ambiguous. It's like, how much is Hill House? How much is your own personal demons? And like, but the Dudleys just like, I don't know, they kind of knew how weird this stuff all was, and we're just like, yeah, we're going with it. So
Yeah.
Goals.
Didn't end well for them though.
I think Annabelle was like the reveal that I didn't expect. Like I wasn't even like waiting for a reveal about Annabelle. I was like, oh, it's like Luke's imaginary friend. Like it's just another ghost, Like I did not expect there to, until like that episode, I think, or maybe the episode before, where I was like, wait a second.
Abigail.
Yeah. Oh, Abigail. Yeah. Because and I think it was like when like it's maybe the episode before or something when you realize the Dudleys have like a living child in like the flashbacks, and I was like, wait a second. I was like, and they talk about how like she's like not supposed to like leave the house and everything, and then I think like Abigail says something about her parents not wanting her to leave the house, and I was like.
And then you like instantly remember, you're like, Abigail was in the window of the house as they drove away. Oh no.
And I think like one of them mentioned earlier that like like Abigail and Luke and Nell were like in the red room with the mom, and like that, like kind of like piecing together that I wasn't like expecting like right towards the end was really cool.
Yeah.
And very tragic.
Very tragic.
Yeah, for me, the red room was that of like, I did not see that coming, of like having the feet, you walk away, just be Theo exercising to 80s music. It's like,
that was cool.
Okay.
Yeah, that was all very cleverly put together.
And it was shot so well too, so that looking back on it, it feels like, oh, well, I should have, probably should have noticed that it was the same window in every single one of those rooms, and that every room had something big and red in it. Like,
it's like you just aren't paying attention. Like
I'm looking for ghosts.
Yeah. I saw people talking, like reading up on stuff after, of like people being like, yeah, like the layout of the house never made sense to me, and like my brain was not paying attention to that.
No.
But then seeing that made it very cool.
A house that big, the lay of it in a show never makes sense to me. Like
Yeah.
I have
Because
trouble
most times
understanding the
people
layout
don't make it make sense. Like the showrunners are just like, we'll just whatever we need, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big creepy house. Things aren't where you expect them to be. Like that's a staple of the horror genre.
Mm.
Like
So
me
you don't know
writing
where you are.
any setting. My house never makes sense.
That's me, but it's not thought out.
I'm like, there were stairs there. It's fine.
See, I just have this one house that I like. I used to have dreams about it, just like stupid dreams as a kid, and now all of my characters live in that house because I know exactly how that house is laid out.
Is it a house that you've invented or a house that is real?
A house that I invented. Like, actually, I think when I used to read Sweet Valley Twins, it was like the layout of their house, and my brain adopted it. It was a series I really liked when I was younger.
I was like,
and
Kelly,
now if I need a default house,
creepy.
I have that house in my head,
Okay.
which I could have just used my house for, but nope, it's this house.
I use
Not a bad
childhood
one.
houses when I'm writing something. Like mine or a friend's house is usually the one that ends up in there. So I thought you had invented a house. And I was like, that's kind of creepy if you dream about it all the time. The start of a new horror movie.
Yes.
I've always wanted to write some sort of like creepy house story, even though I don't love horror stuff.
One of my favorite parts is when she's drawing the blueprint wrong.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what is going on with her?
Mm-hmm.
What was it? She ended up drawing. What was
Drawing
it?
the Forever House.
Yeah, the layout of the Forever House all over it. Yeah.
Right.
My computer's unplugged.
It's when she's starting to do the reveal of like he's looking at the blueprint and he's like, what is this? And we're getting goosebumps. Like, oh no.
Yeah. I just love the slow building of like something is wrong. Like,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
and the balancing of like the characters having to deal, like the adult characters having to deal with the something is wrong, but no one wanting to say it out loud or it was just very cool.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like, I think you have to do it carefully, but I do enjoy stories that revolve around like, is it mental illness or is it an actual ghost, and have you kind of guessing. Sometimes it's both, sometimes it's one or the other. And I like I said, I think you have to be careful when you do that so that it's not horribly offensive, but I do like that when
I hate that. I want a literal, like, I don't want to interpret it. I'm like, it's a ghost. That's it. Like, I know I reach for a bigger meaning.
I think a huge theme of this was, even if the root cause was the ghosts, it made this huge, the trauma of it all made a huge mental health crisis for this family.
Yeah, I don't necessarily ever want it to be like, surprise, it was all in your head. Like, I don't like that. But there was, what's that movie? Inheritance or something? Shoot, I can't remember. But the whole time, you're initially, like, you're not sure if the mom is struggling with her mental illness and like none of it's real, or if it's both, right? And then you do learn that it's both, and it becomes pretty obvious that it was, she was not imagining.
Both, I'm cool. Like, it's just imagined it kind of thing. But and I love the way Hill House handled it with like the dad talking to the like not a ghost mom, or being not actually followed by his ghost, but more of a mental demon kind of thing, but also kind of the ghosts. So
Hereditary. That's what it was called. Yeah. And like, it's called Hereditary. So the whole thing was like the mental illness was passed down from her mother to her, but then you find out there's more going on. Yeah, that's what it was. I like that kind of thing. Find it really interesting.
I do think like a huge theme of the present day line of Hill House was just this idea of, I'm like just thinking this out right now, but this idea of what if we had noticed sooner? What if someone had believed Luke about Abigail? What if someone had gotten Liv out of the house sooner? What if someone had gone and gotten Nell? And it's all related to the ghost, but that's a very real world thing that a lot of people deal with when you have family members who have been through things or friends who have been through things. Like, oh, well, what if I had done this sooner? Would things have been different? What if we had just cut our losses with the house and gotten out before things had gotten bad?
That was very much the feeling to me of the part where Steve sees Nell in his apartment and is like, what are you
At
doing
the end of
here?
episode 1.
And then realizes that was her ghost, essentially. Like she was right there, right?
Yeah.
Like she had reached out to them beforehand. Yeah. It's very tragic and also spooky.
But also frustrating in that, like, you saw her, then you learned she was dead, and still refused to believe in ghosts.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true.
I also remember
grief.
one of the things that was really frustrating was like later in one of the episodes, Shirley says like something about like, why didn't Nell reach out if she was really struggling or something? And it's like, you ignored her call.
Yeah.
She did reach out.
Yes.
And you all brushed her off.
And that's like so intentional too, because obviously, like if they had all been talking to each other, it would have been obvious. Like she reached out to every single one of you.
Yeah.
But they don't talk about it until it's too late for Nell.
Yeah. Which is just, that happens in real life too. That's makes it realistic and horrifying.
But I still hold a little bit against those 2 oldest siblings of just like, come on, guys, get it together.
It is interesting how like you start out being like, oh my gosh, Steve is the worst, I hate him, and then like you slowly start to hate Shirley more and more.
Oh yeah, by the end I'm like, I get why Steve is the way he is. Shirley, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it becomes where you're like, they're in denial, and it's like it becomes frustrating to watch because you're like, it's so obvious that it's not all in their head, like.
And not frustrating in an it's done poorly way, but frustrating in
it's done well way.
Why don't you see this?
Yeah, I think for me, part of it was I have this expectation that the oldest siblings are supposed to kind of look out for everybody else in a way, and the 2 of them were just useless.
They thought they were looking out for people by telling them to get over it. But
well, and Steve repeatedly being like, it's mental illness, get help, was his way of him thinking that he's the only reasonable one and he's the only one telling people to go to a psychiatrist or whatever,
Which, like, get help for sure. But
Go to
also, ghosts are showing up in your house.
But you're in serious denial, so maybe you need a psychiatrist.
And with Shirley, she's just so like self-righteous about everything.
Yes.
Oh,
God. Yeah.
And with both of them, like they have this like attitude of like, Nell and Luke, like at the beginning, like they're always like having trouble. And it's like, yeah, like even if you don't believe in the ghost, y'all went through some like trauma when you were young. Like, and for them to have like eye roll, but like that is realistic. People do that, where they're like, oh, this person, like they're always so needy, even when like there's a very good reason for it.
And that's why I wanted more of those like interim years of like, so did Luke and Nell talk about that we've seen ghosts? Are we just Theo has powers. Is this not important? Like, you must not discuss this.
Yeah.
I know, because I had also wondered that, and I feel like it's pretty well like described that they just outright don't know what happened in that room. And I think because Nell and Luke were so young, they probably didn't have like, oh, mom tried to kill us, like that kind of awareness of what was going on. Because we get that moment in the car where all the kids are freaking out. They're like, what's going on? And they get to the hotel and they're talking about the mom, and Nell just says that wasn't her. And it just gets left at that. And so I do think a huge component of it was that they know something happened, but they don't know what happened, and none of them knew Abigail existed. So,
but Steve and Shirley, do they know the mom tried to kill?
I don't think they do.
Yeah, they never really fully grasped.
They know something happened, but they don't know what.
They're constantly like blaming their dad for like leaving their mom. So like they do not understand like why their dad rushed them out of the house.
They think she had a mental health crisis and he got them out instead of dealing with her.
That kind of thing, like I didn't think of it at the time, but like looking back, I think that irritates me because like, why wouldn't the dad be like, now that you're older, I'm going to tell you
Let's talk about this.
Yeah. But I guess that's their family. They don't talk about it.
He did at first tell, because they had the tabloids go after the family, and he did tell them like the house got her. And then it ended up being like a huge custody lawsuit because Aunt Janet said like, you're obviously not fit to be taking care of them. You think the house got her. So I think there was a component of, like, no one believes me, and if I tell them this,
that is not the part I would have selected to tell people.
Okay.
Not the part I would have told people.
I want to double check that I didn't imagine something. in Nell's episode, when she's doing her flashbacks at her wedding, she sees her alive mom ghost, right?
Yeah.
That's the one that's always like made the most question marks for me of like, okay, you're seeing the version that your dad sees, but he's not really seeing her. Are you seeing ghosts? What is happening? So
I don't think she's seeing a ghost in that scene.
I don't think she's seeing the ghost either. I think she's seeing a space that should have been filled by someone.
You guys think that the dad isn't really haunted by the ghost of
he
wife?
says he's not in the show. He at Nell's funeral, like at the graveside, he tells Luke that he sees their mom all the time, but she's not real. It's a thing that lots of widows do to help cope.
Oh, okay.
And I think also, isn't there a part where she's telling him what he like should say to the kids or something? And it's like, you know this because like I'm your subconscious, basically, you know?
Like this, you know that I'm just you. Like,
okay, gotcha. See, that to me sometimes gets irritating when it blurs the lines, because you have ghosts. Oh yeah, I don't know. Like you have ghosts, and then you have like a
you have ghosts and you have trauma.
Yeah.
But which is so obviously like a real person to me. Watching that is like,
well, that's why I would have wanted a little more of a concrete answer at the end of like how much was Hill House, and like because like at the end he's talking to his dead dad, and his dead dad and dead family all seem very nice and not the ghost versions. But then you see like evil ghost mom crawling out of Nell's grave and stuff. So like, how much is ghost?
Yeah.
I always, in the present day, I always thought the big difference was just like the things coming after them weren't the real ghosts because they were always warped. So it was like always the Hill House version of the ghosts trying to get them to come back, like the Hill House.
Because in the end, the ghost of the mom that is with the dad helps, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think like the real ghosts are in the house, like their actual like whatever's in the house.
So the evil version of the mom is like the house, and
it's like the house. Spirit. It's like alt ghost.
Alt ghost.
And so like some part of it is her, but also a huge part of it is the house.
Yeah, so I guess it all comes to like the red room, like eating you alive as you're in the room kind of thing, and like trying to draw its food back in. But then the ghost kind of exists there.
Yeah, I would have liked that to be a little clearer. I don't know how they would have made that clearer, though.
I don't think I would have liked it more. I think I would have liked it less if they tried to explain it more.
Yeah. That's my thing with like horror is I don't want things explained too much.
Yeah. No, I do agree with that. I think if they had tried to lay it out, I would have been annoyed by it. But at the same time, yeah. I mean, I guess it's not a bad thing to ask to be having.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't disagree with it, but it feels like it contradicts itself a little bit. So there's it's forcing you to have no right answer, which I don't love.
Yeah. Well, because in my head, anytime a ghost was seen that didn't look like a zombie, basically, it was a trauma ghost. And then anytime you saw a ghost that looked like a zombie, it was a Hill House ghost.
I know that Dad said that his subconscious, but I like to think it was the real ghost. I will just pretend in my head that it was the real, it's real life.
So Nell car ghost driving back. What's that?
Hill House ghost. Because she looked like a zombie.
And she's trying to like stop them. Like they're going there. Why would she go yell at them then? I know there's no real answer. I don't expect real answer.
Yeah,
they're doing what you want. Please do not derail them off the road.
But Bedneck Lady is zombie and scary, but she's also going like she doesn't want to torment her past self.
Because there's always like a component of actual self.
Oh, okay.
In the zombie ghost. In my head, obviously they could totally in my head.
Rules.
There's always a component, and then Nell's ghost is fighting against the fact that Hill House is using her to bring them back.
I'd be interested to talk to the
Mike Flanagan,
the writer, and see like what's your because I'm sure that he does have his own rules to this. I'd be curious. Yeah,
but I like that there's lots of different ways you can imagine it.
Ways you can, I like to think that the ghost that was with the dad is the real one, and I've made up my own rule, so I can do that because it's pretty like a loose, hazy interpretation. So
yeah, and I think that's like a mark of good horror is when there are certain things that you can kind of like decide how you want, like, you know, the writer might see it one way, but you can choose how you want to interpret it. And it's one of my like pet peeves with kind of like popular response to horror is whenever there's something where people are like, but it didn't like lay out every answer about how everything worked. And it's like, that's not how horror works.
And as a
horror
writer,
is that it could be happening and you couldn't explain it.
yeah, exactly. And as a writer, I like that to be open to interpretation. And I don't actually ever want to, like, I'd be interested to talk to the writer, but at the same time, I don't want to, because I'm like, I don't want you to tell me that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Well, and it's part of the fact that one of the scariest things is the unknown.
Yeah.
Like that's
absolutely
part of what makes horror scary is the unknown.
Like, I'm curious if he had rules of like, it can't happen beyond this, of like, just from the writing perspective, how you set it up, keeping it broad and having people ask those questions, but not leaning into, oh, well, this would be scary, even though it goes against our world building.
Yeah. That's why as a writer, if someone asks me like, oh, what about this? And it's like something I mean to leave open. I'm like, no, you interpret it. I left it open for a reason, you know? I want to talk about Nell's sleep paralysis, because as somebody who gets sleep paralysis, I want to say that I was annoyed by it, but I don't want to say that that's not how it works, because somebody else might have sleep paralysis that does work that way. But and I also don't know if it was filmed. Like, my issue was that I'm like, okay, she's so intensely obviously awake, like, and knows what's going on around her while she's paralyzed. And like, I have sleep paralysis. I have it very bad. I have trained myself not to sleep on my back, because that's when it kicks in. And I don't sleep past like 7 or 8, because that's when it kicks in. When I have my like episodes, I hallucinate, which is scary as shit. But I am almost always like out of it. I'm half out of it. But she's able to like look around the room and like see what's going on, and she's panicking. And also it lasts for so long. And I don't know if it's shot. I don't know if it's shot because it feels that way to her, or if they're trying to say that the episode is that long. Because I'm like, there's no way it's that long. A few minutes. I'm like, it lasts seconds, okay, and then it's over. But it does feel like a long time. So I don't know if maybe it's shot in a way that's like, this is what it feels like to her. But then her husband has.
We do see Arthur die during one, so
yeah,
that's gotta be.
Her husband has time to be like, oh, don't worry, I'm gonna get up and turn the light on, and then he has a long death scene, and I'm like, how is she still paralyzed? No.
And I wonder also if it's an element of like, she has sleep paralysis with a dose of like haunting, you know, like sleep paralysis.
That's possible, because the Bentnet lady is showing up when this happens. Yeah. Because like it's not unusual for it to be sleep paralysis to be used as like a thing in a horror movie, because it is horrifying. And like I said, I have hallucinated some horrifying shit when I'm having an episode. So I get that people use it for that, but I'm like the scene with her husband, I was like, what is happening? She's so sleep paralyzed.
And also that was the point where I was like, okay, now that you know you have sleep paralysis, why do you keep sleeping on your back?
Yes. I was like yelling at the screen at points. I was like, because I have used tricks where you put marbles, or like if you want to get serious, you can use a tennis ball and you sew it into the back of your pajamas, and you will wake up immediately if you roll onto your back, because it's very uncomfortable. And if it's really bad, that's what you do, because you're like, I'm you get terrible sleep. And I also get like, I will stop breathing in my sleep paralysis as well. So if it's that bad, you will do something about it. You don't just sleep on your back. So yeah, I was very irritated by that as well. Yeah.
I'll watch it again now.
Just right now.
I'm just going through your spook notes. Gonna talk about your spook notes.
So should we talk about the one thing that's so bad that like Megan doesn't even want to watch it, which is the cat?
I don't do bugs in mouths. No.
how do you have it on your spook notes then, or did you refuse to watch it?
I mean, I can watch it. I just don't like it. Yeah, autopsy scene, fine, whatever. Dude, pull that brain right on out. Go for it. But bugs in mouths, no thank you.
Yeah, for anyone curious what the spook notes thing is we're talking about, and I'm guessing there's not going to be a lot of people in this particular video because if you've already watched it, you're probably braver than I am. But I was originally not brave enough to watch this.
You're going to watch it after seeing us fangirl over it. And
Yes,
if you do go to watch it,
it's worthwhile.
you can go to spooknotes.com, right? www.spooknotes.com.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll make a banner.
And Megan has made the most adorable, cutest spooky website that goes over all of the jump scenes, the jump scares.
It's not even just the jump scares. Like she will tell you when like the dread feeling doesn't lead to anything. It's like, so you can just let it build and know something's not coming. Or like she breaks it down. It's very, very funny. Because originally she just like put it in a Google Doc so that like we could read it and I wouldn't be a huge whip. So I was worried she would take out like the funny bits when she put it online, but it's still funny.
I took out some of the profanity for the internet. Yeah, the idea was talking to Kelly about this. She was like, oh, well, I'll just look up episode synopsis before we watch each episode so that I know what's coming. And I was like, oh, but like so much of the fun parts of the story will be spoiled that way. So yeah, I made this guide and it's just each episode in bullet point format. Like this is the scary thing that's coming. It's going to build to this jump scare or it's not going to build to a jump scare. And I try to keep out as many spoilers as possible. It's not possible to keep out every spoiler, but yeah, I was talking to other people about it because I was having a lot of fun making it and then had multiple people be like, hey, I would like to see that. Add me to that Google Doc. So I put it on a website.
It really is perfect. It lets you relax and enjoy the story, but still get the scary vibes, but like she'll note of like when nothing's going to happen for a while. So you can just like
enjoy the dread.
Yeah, actually like immerse yourself in it instead of always bracing for that next thing, which is why I struggle to watch these kind of things. Like you never know when a thing is coming, so I can never relax.
You're not going to jump and spill your tea or your cereal or whatever you're doing or eating at the time. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And if you have suggestions for other shows or movies that you'd like spook notes for, let Megan know.
You're going to do Bly Manor next.
Yeah, I'm doing Bly Manor next. That way we'll have the little bookends. But I had a lot of fun making it, and I think it's fun to look really closely at what makes things scary, especially as someone who likes to write scary things. So yeah, it's a fun project.
And it's been nice for me to see of like how many other people appreciate something like this. Of like how it's not just that I am the giantest wimp. There are a lot of people who want this exact same thing. It made me feel really good.
Giantest wimp.
So yeah,
Wimpnotes.com.
So yeah, check it out if you think that's something that might be useful to you. Also, this show, just generally, I know we've spoiled a lot of things, but I think it's still so good, even when you know what's coming. That's why I've watched it so many times. It's because I always find something new to appreciate.
Yeah, The Word Nerds has been my third rewatch, and I will still probably watch it again. Because like even the hidden ghosts, like Megan was like, oh, this one's really obvious. And I'm like, I didn't see it at all. And now I kind of want to go rewatch it so I can see all the ghosts I missed.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna watch Bly Manor next because I want to like spread out Hill House, especially now that I know there's no immediate plans for like a third one in this, whatever this is. Yeah,
I would love for there to be another one. I think that Mike Flanagan is so talented, and I love the way he.
I thought he was making another.
He's making another thing. He's gotten so busy with other things.
Oh,
that he's not doing another one of these.
Like another ghosty. Oh, that's sad.
But he still might. It's 2020, you know. 2020.
I saw some kind of announcement that he was doing something. I don't know what his next project is.
Yeah, he's been around for a long time.
And it sounds like it's something scary with one of these actors, but it's not one of these.
That's still good. But yeah, the classic gothic feeling haunting stuff is like,
I love it.
It's so good. Although like I have so many feelings about Bly Manor and I'm still mad, but
we'll have to do another chat.
I don't know if I can watch it again though. Like I said,
you don't have to watch it again. We're gonna
and we're doing another chat because that's going to be our movie night. So
I like fun fun TV facts. But Mike Flanagan, who wrote and directed, is married to the actress who plays Theodora.
Oh.
And they found out that she was pregnant right before they filmed the episode that we love so much. And they named that child Theodora.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I really like all the actors. And
Yes.
they were great in Bly Manor too. It's such a weird idea to recast them, but it works so well.
That's what they do in like American Horror Story and stuff.
Ryan Murphy does a lot of that.
I've only seen a few episodes of American Horror Story, I will admit. But I did enjoy them. I just never got around to watching more.
Although I was slightly distracted when I realized that the mom is the mom in Spy Kids.
Yes. And Shirley is the mom in Twilight.
Yeah, so both of those, like, I kept, like, every once in a while, I'd be like,
well, Spy Kids just got uploaded to Netflix, and I was like, should I? No. I can't.
I keep meaning to bring up every time I, like, see it on Netflix. I mean to, like, Snapchat y'all, but, like, when you, like, have, like, I don't know if your, like, Netflix ever goes into, like, screensaver mode or whatever, and it'll show, like, the, like, almost like posters for like different like Netflix shows or whatever. And like all of these actors are so attractive, but the one for Hill House, they like look so awkward and I don't understand it.
Yes. I noticed from the screensaver thing that the actor who plays Steve is in that Guernsey literary potato peel whatever one. I was like, that's Steve.
What show is this?
It's based on a book. Yeah. It has what's her face in it?
What's it called?
Lily something? The Guernsey Literary Potato Peel Society, I think.
And it has,
I think it's the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie.
Yes, Potato Peel Pie.
Oh my God. I don't know if it's on Canadian Netflix or maybe
I think it's a Netflix show.
Yeah, it's a Netflix show. It's not something. There's no magic. You won't like it.
It's historical.
It's a historical.
Lily Jane, that's her name. Lily Jane in it. Yeah.
History.
But with regards to having the same actors in the following season, I read about like the theory behind choosing to do that, and about how in horror it helps create even more of a sense of unsettling because you expect them to be one thing and it's a face you recognize, but it's not doing what you expect anymore, even though the tone is similar. You know, it's still horror, but you don't know what to expect anymore.
You know, the funny thing though is that I don't know if it's my ADHD brain or just like my forgetfulness in general, but like I went into Bly Manor like not even really remembering any of their so it didn't have the unsettling effect on me, because I literally, like, Sean makes fun of me for this, but I can watch a movie like and then watch the same movie a few months later and be like, oh, is he secretly the bad guy? And Sean be like, you watched this 3 months ago. I don't remember it. So it didn't work on me. Goldfish brain.
Yeah.
I don't know how effective that horror thing would be, because like that's the whole concept behind actors. That they are in different things as different people.
But it is weird when you like have seen someone always be like a nice good character and then you see them be a bad character. Yeah, like speaking of horror, What Lies Beneath really messed with me because Harrison Ford is like this great guy and you're like, I love Harrison Ford. And spoiler, he is not a good guy. And so it like messed me up.
Yeah, that was like the scariest horror I had ever seen when I saw it the first time.
I'm gonna have to write that down because I haven't seen it.
It's like a thriller kind of horror.
Ooh, I like it.
It's like thriller, but there's also ghosts. It's so
good.
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
We were watching it in college together, and I don't know if that was your first time seeing it, but it was my first time seeing it, and it was late at night, and we lived in like this half basement apartment, so people could walk by and look down at us, and our door was open, and I just remember like shrieking into the night because I was so stressed out.
I like I said, I've been going on and on and on about this bullet journal I'm just starting for 2021, so I'm gonna have a list of movies to watch as well, so that's gonna go down on there because I always have people recommend me, and I, like I said, I write it on sticky notes and they go into the ether and I never end up watching the movies.
I also wouldn't hate doing more of this because like watching this with you guys is part of what made it a lot of fun. Also because of like during the spooky parts of like just seeing little side comments from all of you. Definitely helped me. So, but
Yes.
I need to figure out how to do dual monitors though, so I can watch on one side and see your guys' faces on the other, so I can see you during the
it's
jump
so
scares.
fun. I really wanted to see
Wasn't
Kelly,
able
and I
to.
couldn't see her for most of it.
yeah,
I know.
I tried to watch with Matt. Well, I successfully watched with Matt.
Yeah.
So I always had to like, I couldn't turn the sound off or anything because he also wanted to hear what was happening. So it made the setup more difficult.
Honestly,
I'll ditch him for the next one.
He wants to
Yes.
hear what's happening.
I'm like writing down all the movies we've talked about so that I can add those. 2021 is like my let's watch all the horror.
Yeah.
I feel like it might be that for me too. So I'm excited.
Yes.
You know what's weird is I was saying this to a friend the other day, and because everyone was like, oh, here's all the Christmas movies you can watch. And literally through the entire Christmas break, I've just watched horror movies. I don't know why. 2020 has been horrifying enough. But maybe
But at least you weren't haunted by ghosts.
Yeah, it could have been
At
worse.
least your house
Could have
didn't
been
murder
worse.
you.
And maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know. Like the fact that 2020 has been horrible, and I'm like, let's watch horror movies, and I could be like, life isn't that bad. Ghosts and demons. Like
I've read like 25 books in the last 2 months, and it's basically been horror or like smutty romance and nothing in between.
nothing in between.
That's all I can handle is completely horrific or extremely romantic.
Well, there's a study about people with anxiety disorders that says that often we do like horror movies a lot. Yeah, because you're like, oh, I have this level of anxiety about everything else, but I can watch this movie and it's scary and then it's over. And like none of that was real. Yeah. I don't know. There's something, and I
Kind of cathartic, I think, in a lot
yeah,
of ways.
it's like when women listen to murder podcasts so much.
Yeah, I don't
Why
get that
do we do
either.
that?
I can't do those. I get too stressed. But
I do. I was like that with not CSI, Criminal Minds. Like I really love Criminal Minds, but it's all about serial killers who often like prey on women. And I'll watch like 3 episodes and be like, everyone wants to murder me. So
yeah. I have to do like murder podcasts in like small doses.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I can like listen to one and then I have to like, or
Then
just
you
do a
have to
couple maybe,
stop.
and then I have to like take a break for a while. Yeah.
I'm paranoid.
Yeah.
Is the door locked?
Start putting bars on all my windows.
Yeah. I was like, after I watched The Ring, I think that I couldn't have my shower curtain closed anymore. My bathroom, I was like, this is a perfect place for a murderer to hide or a ghost.
I think that's part of why I love like gothic horror and haunted house type horror, because my brain is very simple. And it's like, oh, well, horror in house. My house, not that house. Like, it's fine. The ghosts won't get me because they're in that house.
That's right. Logic.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that unsettled after watching any of these episodes, but I did have bad dreams those nights, and I don't usually. Like my dreams are very boring, so
Yeah.
it got to me a little bit.
When I remember dreams, they're always horrifying. Always.
I'm not even into half my dreams. It's like watching really boring television, except for after
Yeah. I don't know. I get like tense, I guess. Like right before bed, I'll feel a little tense or something. But like I got that way when I read Plain Bad Heroines. Like I didn't think the book was particularly scary, but I did notice when I was trying to fall asleep at night after reading it for an hour and a half straight, I was like a little jumpy.
Interesting.
Well, we've talked a lot about Hill House. Let us know again if you are watching this after the fact. Let us know what you thought about the show. Let us know if you liked it, things you didn't like.
If you're planning on watching it now.
If you're planning on watching it now, definitely let us know all the things. It's a great show. I also highly recommend reading the book. It was a fun book. It's a short one. It's a quick read. And I love Shirley Jackson and I want to be her. She's great. So yeah, anyone have any final thoughts?
watch it if you haven't.
Yes, watch it if you haven't. And be sure to tune in this Sunday. We'll be having another live chat like we always do at 7:30 Eastern Time. And yeah, we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.